So we now have three speakers who will briefly present some current rangeland research related to climate change. Our first is Annie Taylor from UC Berkeley, as PhD candidate at the Maggie Kelly Lab, who will discuss future grassland productivity in California. Annie.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here with you all. Everybody can hear me. I'm coming in fine. Awesome. So I'm gonna share my screen. I loved looking at those photos. That was wonderful. Calzilla, congratulations. As you just said, I'm a PhD candidate in Maggie Kelly's lab at UC Berkeley in the Environmental Science Policy and Management Department. I also saw Professor Hunsinger here. It's great to see you. And I am part of this awesome project that's looking at future grassland productivity in California, and that's led by Jeremy James at Cal Poly, Teresa Bacchetti here, one of our own, on helping to organize today's summit, and then Maggie Kelly, also in the Environmental Science Department at Berkeley. So this project, I'm going to be speaking about one of the pieces of this project today, but for those who are just getting an introduction today, this team is working on a larger project to understand the potential impacts of a drying climate on rangeland systems statewide. And the first piece of this is empirical. So I'm actually manipulating climatic conditions and measuring the impact on production. And this is very site-specific and very valuable information. I'm working on the forecasting piece, which is aiming to build sort of a generalizable statewide model that can predict future grassland production across the state. So kind of a big ask, and I think you'll hear today as I'm just introducing you to what we're trying that yeah, it's a big project to bite off. So we'd love your help. And this is all funded by UC A&R. So like I said, I'm just speaking about that modeling piece today. So our goal is really, like I said, to project future changes in grassland production, given these really novel climate conditions we might be expecting in the future. I don't have to tell this group that rangeland and grassland is incredibly important ecologically, economically, for our well-being, and that's definitely one of our motivations in tackling this project. Another is that there are really great improved climate predictions for our state, and also a newly developed net primary production data set that we're going to leverage. And so those are some of the exciting motivations for our group. We're really building from the work of Kramer and George in 2013 that modeled future forage production in the SF Bay area. Like I said, we're hoping to do that statewide and leverage these new data sets. So it's going to look a little different, but that's really a foundational model for us. So here's our overview of our workflow. First, we need to build a model that works. So this is really focusing on the historical period. Can we use climate data to predict the production that actually occurred in the past? So that's sort of step one. Step two is to, once that model, if that model is good, if it's working, project it into the future. So we have 30 plus climate models in 4 different scenarios. And so there are a lot of different ways to project it into the future. That's really the second step. And finally, we want to add some nuance to this estimate and to these models. We want to talk about years where there may be very little to no precipitation in some parts of the state. What can we expect then? These sort of differences across the state's ecoregions. So those are some of the explorations we want to take once we've got the model working. And this is just to reiterate that we are in that first step. We are trying to build a model that works. So this is really an introduction to what we're doing, and we're hoping to get feedback, ideally through the chat today, from you all. So I'll just have 2 slides on the data sets we're using in case folks are interested in trying these themselves. So we are using the CalAdapt API, which houses all of these awesome new downscaled climate model data sets. So you can see climate models have gotten much higher resolution using different topographic modeling approaches. So these are downscaled data sets, roughly 5 kilometer to 7 kilometer resolution pixels in our state. And these models are backcast, which is very important for our model, but kind of too boring to talk about today. And these are available at caladapt.org. The other great data set that we're using is from the Rangeland Analysis platform, which I've also linked here. they have an annual net primary production data set that's very high resolution. It's based on Landsat data, and so it's the 30-meter resolution pixels. And within each pixel, they've actually split it out into annuals, perennials, shrubs, and trees. You can sort of get a snapshot of that here in this image, but this is really valuable. So within these pixels, they have estimated every year how much of the net primary productivity is due to annuals and perennials, which is really useful for our work. So, and that's from 86 to the present. Very cool. You can check them out there. So our approach, what are we working on right now? Because as you saw, we're currently in this development phase. So we have 3 core daily climate data sets: our maximum temperature, our minimum temperature, and the precipitation. And from that, we're hoping to we've calculated growing degree days, which are very useful in understanding plant growth rates. And then when using growing degree days, you have to define a growing season for your target ecosystem. And so that's what I want to talk with you all about, because that's where we're sort of still working. And then in case it's interesting to anyone here, we're accessing the CalAdapt API through Jupyter Notebooks. This is daily climate data from 1950 to 2100. And so you really, the API makes this possible. This is really difficult to download and work with any other way. And so we're really grateful to the GIF at Berkeley who made that possible. And then these are the 2 packages we're using to make this. They're keeping me sane. So I'm just recommending Xarray and HVplot if you're going to explore these data. Okay, so I'll quickly get into what we've done so far and where we could use your help. So this is an image of just a single day in 2005 of California. You can see it here in the surrounding area. And this is showing growing degree days or heat units for that day. So this gives you a sense of how this varies over space. So you can see the Central Valley has much higher heat accumulation or growing degree days than maybe these Northern California pieces. And this is very helpful in predicting rates of plant development, as I said, but it comes with a challenge. So this chart is showing on the x-axis the day of water year. So starting in October and ending at the end of September. And heat units are on the y-axis, and those are those black dots, the daily heat units over time at a single place. And you can see that I'm just gonna move my zoom window, that there's many more heat units later in the year. This is in summer and fall when we would expect rangeland and grasslands to be pretty dormant and not growing. And so how do we cut it off? We can't just say, what's the annual growing degree days? Because it'll be so skewed by these hot summer and fall days. So where do you cut it off so that you can get a good measure of the growing degree days that benefited grassland and rangeland that year? We're starting the growing season when 25 millimeters of precipitation has accumulated in a given pixel. So that's going to look pretty different. You can see Northern California, those places have precipitation accumulated to that level almost immediately, whereas Southern California, that start of season is going to be much later, and it's going to vary year to year. And then we have this end of season issue. So we are hoping to get feedback in the chat if you guys have ideas about this, but basically on the left, I've listed all the climate variables that are available to us. So we need stuff that's not only available in the past, but also into the future. So these are some of the things we're looking at to try to figure out what is driving the end of the season generalizably across the state for grasses. And so beyond that max temp, min temp, and precipitation, we're also looking into evapotranspiration and runoff, trying to figure out a calculation of water balance that looked really good for some parts of California. When does this water balance where's the inflection point of that curve? It's usually in spring, and that's really, what we would expect. So maybe that we'll use that, but it has been shown to not consistently work across the state. So that's where I'm hoping you all can help us. And I don't want to take time from later speakers. So if you could throw that in the chat, that would be really helpful. And yeah, just to mention other challenges and things we're not able to account for in this project, but things we're thinking about. So yeah, with that, I'm really excited to hear the other speakers as well. I think that our team will benefit a lot. So thanks for your time, and I hope to hear your ideas.
Thanks, Annie. And if you do have questions or ideas for Annie, if you can put them in the chat. And Annie, if you can put your contact information in the chat as well, so folks know how to get a hold of you.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that. I forgot to throw up the slide. There's my email. And also just thank you to my project team for all our funding and for these folks for supporting us with data and tech support. So yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.